Mommy! Please let me in. I am my mommy.
The Doctor and Vicky are in the TARDIS reminiscing about the just departed Ian and Barbara when they hear a clatter and investigate to find Stephen Taylor, who is stowed away after the events of the last story. They land together in England in 1066, with the threat of the Viking invasion looming. They decide, as per usual, to explore. Little do they know that they're being watched by a monk who knows much more than he should considering the time period. What are his intentions? When will Stephen realise that they are really time travelling? And at what point will the Vikings show up? Find out as we discuss The Time Meddler, which was written by Dennis Spooner, directed by Douglas Camfield, and was first broadcast from the 3rd to 24th of July, 1965.
I am Nick.
I don't know anymore.
He's Conrad. But we think. Anyway, welcome to this podcast review of The Time Meddler. So, this very good story at the end of the second season ever of Doctor Who.
It's kind of weird considering, like, in most other seasons, you'd think that something like The Chase would be the finale. Like,
yeah,
feels,
with Ian and Barbara leaving.
Well, that and the whole, like, Dalek. It's kind of very climactic in some ways, so it's kind of weird how they decided to finish off with this one instead, but it works. Although this could have easily have worked at the beginning of the next season.
Definitely, yeah. I don't know, what's the gap between... Okay, well, the Time Meddler ended on the 24th of July, and then the next season started 11th of September, so it was only about a month in between. That's why I wish I lived back then, because, you know, you basically had Doctor Who constantly all year, when it was the black and whites. How awesome would that been? Just every week, basically, you know, 42 weeks, basically, you had Doctor Who. And, you know, about 10 weeks of No Who, it's back again. I bet that's just so awesome. Yeah. But, so... This is quite a big story because it's the first ever story not to have Ian or Barbara in. That is pretty big, really, when you think about it. From the very beginning, you know, they've been in it. And, I mean, they even have a little scene at the beginning, you know, kind of talking about it still.
Reflect,
and I think it was right to do that and not do what the later classics do, which is kind of like, especially after Adric dies in the next story, they've basically kind of totally forgotten him. It's like, carry on.
What's an Adric?
I think there's like one line mentioned about him in Time Flight or something. There's about it. But here we get a nice little scene, but then boom, they get right into the action with the noise, and then you think, oh my god, there's a Dalek on the ship. You know, that's pretty intense stuff right then. Like, and then the Doctor takes off his jacket to throw it over it.
Got on into the ship.
I don't know. Open the door.
How does it open the door, though?
With its sucker.
But it was locked, wasn't it?
I don't know, maybe he forgot to lock it. Or he got it from the cuppy behind the pig. Like the TV movie brought in. Yeah, so I always think it's funny. So Vicky takes off her shoe to hit the Dalek with it. This all-powerful being is just there holding like her slip-on shoe.
Attacking it with the ice door.
Yeah! But yeah, so it turns out to be Stephen, which I remember watching this, and because I got, you know, VHSs out of order from my uncle and auntie, I never got stuff in order, so I remember I got The Chase probably a while before it, and then, because I remember the last William Hartnell stories I got in this kind of free box VHS, it had the Gunfighters, the Time Meddler, and the Sensorites in it. It had those three, which are a bit free random ones, but it's just the free last to release, I think. And yeah, so I finally got to watch that one. And this one was... No, this wasn't the last one, this was the middle one. But yeah, this was the best one in the pack. Time Meddler for sure. But I remember being completely confused on who the hell Stephen was. I was like, where did he come from? What's he from? Because you kind of forget about him from The Chase. Yeah. It's only if you watch the chase and then watch this one, does it? You know, it kind of all connects up.
It's weird how he even got into the TARDIS. Again, like, how does he get into the TARDIS? Why is he there? You know, just sort of, he's there. He said they saw a door and went in, but like, when did that happen? When was the door open?
I don't know. I think we need to go back and watch that. And I guess we'll see. But he collapses and he gets up pretty quickly. It was like pointless collapse. It was like, okay, stop the melodrama.
The panda slapped him enough.
Oh yeah, and like the panda just disappears.
It does after this story.
It's I kind of wish it was a continuous thing, but I mean, I love Peter Pals as Stephen.
Oh yeah.
I'm sad that most of Stephen's stories are missing. Like most of Galaxy 4, most of all the Myth Makers, most of Dalek's Master Plan, the Massacre. The Celestial Toy Maker. And his last story, The Savages, it's basically, I think, it's only him and Annika and Michael Craze who have the worst luck when it comes to their stories.
Yeah.
I think they have the worst. I don't know who's worse, actually, Peter Purz or Annika and Michael Craze. I have to work that out, really.
Yeah.
Compared to episode, what's the percentage of missing? But yeah, so I mean, it's always a shame because I kind of like Stephen is very, very different to Ian, which I think was right, for what it was, and he
kind of just leaped into things.
Yeah, and his and Maureen's kind of their conversation's believable, and just William Hartnell at this point it just owns the role.
Oh yeah,
he just owns it.
That whole moment where he's like when Stephen's like asking about everything like Bob Utton and
it's
just like,
that is the dematerialization button. That is a clock. That is a panda on a chair. Dear poetry, my dear boy.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, now leave me alone. Now do me a favor, or so I can leave me alone. Yeah. And then, funny enough, actually, Maureen O'Brien messed up her lines, and when she was explaining TARDIS. Was time and relative dimensions. She made it plural when in the original it was actually dimension. So actually she changed it by an outtake, and that's continued for the rest of the time now because it's still dimensions. So there you go, a little cock up there.
Yeah, it kind of seems
dimensions.
To fit.
Dimensions makes more sense, really.
Yeah, it does.
And then he goes idby. Which is, I don't believe it.
There's kind of, there's a scene where they're kind of all close together, and then there's a bit of cutting out where, well, not really cutting out, but like kind of things. You can kind of tell things are like they're just about getting through this scene, kind of.
Which part was this at?
I don't remember exactly, but they were like talking to. There was like in the shot, like one side of the shot was like Vicky and the Doctor, and the other was like Stephen, and the Doctor kind of had to cut in, I think, at some point, just to keep the scene going.
I don't remember that, but yeah. So then, it's kind of interesting because it's another historical one which Dennis Spooner usually writes. I think he wrote the Reign of Terror. I think he wrote. I know he wrote the Romans, which is a great comedy piece.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he wrote. Yeah.
Unlike that story, though, I'd have to say, as a whole, this story quite blends it in quite nicely. So yes, there is a decent amount of comedy, and it's quite funny when it is. But at the same time, it takes itself enough seriously to where it gets
a solid story across.
Yeah,
especially
it's consistent. Like, I like the Romans, but that is nearly like
just a comedy.
Yeah, and like that's not. Yeah, it's not always. I mean, it's fun to watch, and I do enjoy that story. It's just I kind of feel this works better when it's more of a play.
Yeah, it's more kind of balanced here.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's they go out the TARDIS then, and then the monks like hiding down behind the rock, and it's like
he's on top of the cliff. He's just looking out.
Oh no, he is there. That's when the TARDIS first lands. He sees it. And then he's below the rock, and the Doctor's just kind of throwing pebbles, and then the camera pans down to where the pebbles are going, and they're kind of hitting him, which I thought was quite good. But the thing is the rock just wasn't big enough. Like, you would have seen him, I think. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know why you'd get that close. It's, like, risky.
Yeah, and there's this thing throughout the first few parts where Stephen's just not convinced of time travelling, and they just try to keep convincing him that he is, and, like... Yeah, it's nice they turn the one-upmanship that they kind of do to each other on that. It's like, well, there's a watch, it can't be. Well, it really is.
So I always wondered where the watch came from, but actually it's right in the beginning scene. The monk looks for it, but he never says, "Oh, where's my watch gone?" So it was only actually this time I finally got it. I was like, "Oh, right, it's I mean, I guessed it was obviously his, but I never realised that was what he was doing to start with when he was trying to look through his watch and realise he'd lost
keep
it."
Track of time.
But yeah, and that's why he used to keep asking later on.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, then there's two men dressed in tunics. One thing, the sets here are really good.
They are. Considering where...
The monastery and the little village set and, the foresty sets are really, really nice.
Considering this is all done, like, in studio, it's really, like, all of it's kind of convincingly, like, the forest is convincingly a forest, the beach is convincingly a beach, and the town really does look like something that would be, like, kind of from that era. The only thing slightly off was, I noticed in some scenes the clouds, they're kind of weird. They kind of just spin around more.
Yeah.
Like, that is kind of odd, but
It's
other than that, just in general, how everything looks is pretty exceptional in general. Like,
yeah. And then there's they find a Viking helmet, which isn't, like, accurate at all because it has the horns on it, and they knew that even back then. So I'm kind of wondering why this trying to be a historical show.
It's just the iconic look. It's it's
I
a
guess.
show partially for families, and that's what they'd recognise.
But yeah, I loved it. It was what do you think it is? A space helmet for a cow. That was a great first Doctor line there. But yeah, it just flows very well. They get up the cliff, but then they have to split up, don't they? Because two of them climb it, and then the Doctor goes the long route because he can't climb it.
He tells them to wait until he comes to the end and tells them to come up. It's Stephen doesn't follow. Vicky was trying to.
Yeah, and that's the usual thing. And then they come back, and then, like, what's great is that the tides come in, so they can't get back to the TARDIS at any point, And, like, you think throughout the story that, oh my god, the TARDIS has been washed away. Because, I mean, at this point, the TARDIS could have been, it hadn't been specified that, but it couldn't.
Well, it's been moved around before. Like,
exactly,
it had in, like, Marco Polo, they were dragging it around with them. Like, it was, like, it's kind of weird how the tides can't take it, and yet people can. And...
Well, I guess it's half consciousness knows that.
Yeah, that wasn't established at this point. They didn't really.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think that was just a bit of an oversight. But...
Well, I think it's an oversight in the future because this was. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, ignore that. Yeah, that was an oversight. But yeah, maybe it could just tell the difference between water and ropes and pudding.
Yeah, but ropes and pulling could indicate that they're taking it away and such. And the same thing actually happens in the Faceless One / Power, Evil of the Daleks as well. They take it away.
Yeah. And the Doctor, he goes into he finds a little village. He just walks in the house, just looks about.
Casually.
Yeah, casually walks about, comes out, and then this stick shoves him up against a wall, which that always makes me laugh. Yeah. It's like just the face he pulls as this like little goes over the side of his face. It's like hello. And then then I think there's a scene with the monk. But then I love this scene here. It's a really good scene about how he slowly works out what year it is, and it teaches you a lot, historically.
Yeah,
it's very, 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 very interesting. Because he has to, repeat very many, many times.
Yep.
That's many, 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 many times. But yeah, I mean, it was good. Like, then he went, oh, it's summer due to the leaves. So it kind of gives you an image of what kind of colour the leaves would be. And, it's like Black and White Doctor Who just always has this such charm to it.
Of course.
there's something about the black and white era which just I love it so much for what it is. I think it's great.
It is.
It's great stuff. And then so then he hears the music from the monastery, but they only ever see this one monk, and so he goes over and then he gets trapped in the cell. It comes down, and it's such a good cliffhanger with the monk just laughing, because at this point we don't know how dangerous the monk is. This monk's just a random character who's been watching and listening and going, oh yeah, and then basically then he traps him, and he's just trapped and he's just laughing.
Yeah.
It's a really good evil laugh as well, and yeah.
One other thing in part 1, there's a strange scene. Well, actually, it was one of the villagers finds a watch. And then Stephen decides immediately to start attacking the guy.
Yeah, that is very odd. That
why
scene.
did you? I mean, I know he's a bit,
trying to prove it wrong.
over the top, but why go straight for attacking some guy? If it's just as he said, he was like drama group, why would he go straight for attacking them?
Because he is fed up of being, made a fool of, so he's got to get in there and prove him wrong.
And I also have to say, sometimes in this episode, while, I generally enjoy the pacing and such, and usually something's happening in every scene, some things do go on a little bit too long. That is a bit of an issue throughout. In this first episode, I'd say the scene with him talking to the woman in the village, that does,
it does go on a while.
It does go on for a very long time. It's okay.
Yeah, we got the history. After you said that's very, 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 very interesting, it should cut there, but it carried on for an extra, I think, minute or so.
I mean, you kind of needed to know that he was going to the monastery.
Yeah.
But, it did go on for a while. They kept giving him, the ale.
I remember I just loved the twist of the gramophone. I remember watching that the first time. I was like, "Oh, I see what's going on here."
Yeah.
So yeah,
very loud gramophone if you could hear it from the village.
Yeah, well, it was enhanced by the monk, but yeah. So episode 2, William Hartnell was on holiday, so that's why you don't actually ever see him. You just hear pre-recorded stuff. I love it when he wakes him up for his toaster and electric grilled, and the doctor just throws water in his face.
Yeah. It's made you a very lovely lunch there, Doctor.
Breakfast, but yeah.
Breakfast, and you just threw this.
That's rude. But yeah, so then they go to find the doctor, and then they're ambushed by villagers, isn't it? Yeah. Huh? They get Vicky and Stephen get ambushed.
At the beginning, well, not too far at the beginning, they go and, isn't it that they go and, so I've got these here in my notes, they go and give the monk the cabbage, isn't it?
Yeah, the villagers do, yeah.
Yeah. And I really like this line, it's poor fare for the likes of you. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The 2 villagers. Yeah, where they see him.
Yeah.
And it's because he's going to the cliffs to watch. But yeah, that is just the scene before where Stephen returns and the 2 make their way back to the TARDIS, so the 2 friends are ambushed by the villagers.
Oh yeah. Which is kind of a pointless moment considering they let go
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, an argument breaks out between the villagers for basically no reason, and then
one person doesn't trust them, the other person does,
Yeah, and they're Viking spies and should be kept. And then after the Edith, for woman with who spoke to the doctor, she's like, oh yeah, they're with him. And they go up to the monastery.
Not necessarily with them.
What I like at the monastery is where they basically the doctor, Stephen goes, oh, do you remember his description? And he gives a description.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that was a bit too easy. But then Vicky points that out. So it's oh, maybe he made it easy. Maybe his fooled us thinking we fooled him. I think that was a really good moment because it made this really situation to, oh, right. So who actually is the smartest here? Did you trick him easily or has he tricked you? So that was pretty cool. Then the Vikings appear, Well, I think they appear maybe in the scene before, and they're just like,
before, they just kind of
let's look about. I don't really think we need that soon, but whatever.
Well, you kind of introduced them, I guess. They could have been just as easily introduced in when they first attacked the woman in the village, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then they do attack, and actually the fight scene is pretty good between the villagers and the Vikings. Some bits are obviously a bit staged, especially when they like hold their swing back just so the other actors ready to dodge it.
Like there are kind of stabbing moments, but it just kind of bounces off.
Yeah.
Like they do the mistake of actually, not trying to hide that. They just kind of like the fight itself is okay until you look closer and just see, they're sort of hitting each other, but not really, and they just.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like intenseness, you're never sure actually who's got the upper hand, because at one point the villagers have the upper hand and it's the Vikings. So in terms of that, it was pretty solid. I remember I was actually pretty hooked watching that scene, even though it was quite funny, like where they'd hold back their swing horizontal. So, well, he's obviously going to duck, so just change your swing pattern and go for a stab, a quick bring back, But
I'd have to say the story is still quite interesting to watch, and for a second watch as well, because for a first time watch,
first time watch, this is a great story,
an interesting mystery. I actually say it's still really good for a second time watch, because now that you know what the monk is ultimately hoping to achieve, you can see how all the pieces before that kind of fit together, and actually it's really quite interesting to watch for a second time.
This is like my fifth watch. I think I watched it twice on VHS. I watched it when I first got it on DVD. And I watched it again recently. I watched it just for this podcast review. So I watched it quite a few times now. And there's still a load of scenes which I find very enjoyable, which is a good sign.
Definitely.
If you can keep watching it over and over. There's only one which I can watch a bit more often than this one, which is Aztecs for sure. But that's a different day. Different podcast, different day.
Yeah.
So what I do like is, we never see the Doctor escape from the prison room.
No.
He just does it. They get in, they get in the monastery, and they find the gramophone actually, which I think is quite nice, because then they understand how he does it.
The same kind.
They follow the same path, and then they find the door, and it's like he's just gone, and it's like, where is he?
He's been replaced by a Yeti.
Yeah. So that was cool. That was a good episode. I still definitely think the first episode had the better cliffhanger. Though, episode 3 cliffhanger is even better. Investigated how the Doctor gets out. They find the secret passage and crawl through it. And the thing is they crawl through it that way, and then later on they have to crawl back through it, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And this one is a bit samey. Like they've got the villager they're looking after. Everybody's like knocking on the door. It's like a joke or something.
Yeah, it is. Like the moment keeps being interrupted.
But I must say, William Hartnell and Peter Butterworth on screen is amazing.
Oh, they work really well off each other.
They're so great. So great to see them. They are incredibly good.
Oh, definitely. Like that entire
I mean, at this point, we still don't actually know what the Time Meddler's plan is. We don't know what the monk wants at this point. We still don't know. You don't really find out until episode 4, really.
Which actually, it's kind of fun just seeing these like modern elements just kind of scattered about. So like when the monk first trying to treat the guy, he like just pulls out a first aid kit and just kind of hides that. It's like it's all kind of
It's very, very well done.
With that,
his facial features, the faces he can pull are great as the monk.
Butterworth, just in general, just the way he, all the time, he's just perfect for this role.
Definitely,
just the kind of more. He was well known for the Carry On films. Like his comedic timing here is great. There's a lot of stuff like that. He's very much more of a comedic actor, and it definitely shows here. It's just great to watch. It's really great to watch. Yeah.
So he helps this Eldred back to health, and then
sort of. Well, he kind of gives him some medicine.
Modern medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just kind of leaves him there, and he's like, he has to keep him there for a week.
Then he learns that the looks of the Viking Saxons encountered, a full invasion may occur within 3 days. So then the monk's happy because everything's on schedule. So you're starting to think, oh, right. So it's going to help, So you're starting to think he wants them to invade, which makes it interesting. You're like, oh, so he wants the Vikings to invade, like that's what he wants.
Yeah, kind of.
And then you soon see his list on the wall, his little list, which has then at number 5, destroy Viking fleet. Norman landing, Battle of Hastings, meet King Harold. But King Harold's supposed to die there, so it's all very interesting.
Yeah, it is. I also have to say, because the monk at some point gets out and heads down to the village, when he's heading to just one nice other little visual gag. It's just him trying to knock on the cloth.
Oh yes. He goes to knock on the cloth, and then he's like, oh, so he knocks on the side bit. And he tries to get them to light, isn't it, beacons or something?
Yeah, in the cliffs, and that's the point where they're just kind of
Yeah, it's like, oh, But and then he
because they'd been kind of told before that there might be a Viking invasion because of the doctor said. So.
And then the doctor basically puts a stick up the monk's back and basically goes, "It's not like that, but
oh god."
Oh no! Saying it's a rifle, and so that was a good scene where he looks around and then just this big stick appears and makes the monk freeze in his place.
One line I do like from that is that just no more monkery.
Oh yeah. It's very well written here, but they did hold back on the comedy a bit more, which is, I think, better. But and then they find this gun just hidden in the bushes, an atomic gun, which is quite lucky to come across. Really, I don't know why.
I'd also have to point out. I mean, it's a little bit early for that, but they never removed that.
Mm-hmm.
That is never removed as far as we've seen.
The atomic gun's stuck there.
They just left it there.
He can't get the ammo, but it's still there, just as a gun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Technology is brought forward
Maybe on the
years.
walk back to the TARDIS, the Doctor just pushed it over the edge into the sea.
But the beach was there now.
Yeah, well, the tide would take it away.
Well, the villagers got there first.
Well, what would they have done with it? They would have cut it down and made it into scrap metal for weapons.
Besides, wouldn't it have washed up on the beach eventually anyway?
I don't know. Well, probably somewhere far away.
Exactly.
Jumanji.
I still haven't watched that film, so I don't know reference.
Basically, they throw the board game in the sea into a river at the very end, and it washes up in a beach in France or something. Because they try to get rid of it, but it just washed up somewhere else. But yeah, they go, oh well, he's going to do this. And then this episode 3 is a bit more filler, really.
Also, I'd have to say, because there's a few scenes with the Vikings before they head into the they lose their accents actually several times.
Yeah,
you just can't keep them.
And then one's trying to be a coward, and it's how did this guy get in? The first lines. He wouldn't have got that far. People would have known he was a coward at this point.
This is his first mission. There are
then he wouldn't be at the front if it was his first mission.
This is just a small spying thing and a free thing.
Yeah, but they'd be in battle eventually. I don't know.
And see, because everybody keeps knocking at the door, and the monk opens it, and eventually, because they talk about going to the monastery, and he opens the door, and you think it's going to be the Vikings. It's a doctor coming in for that one, and then the doctor opens the door, and it's the Vikings.
Yeah.
And somehow they manage to fight them off.
Well, the doctor hides behind the door and knocks him on the head, which is a good moment. The Doctor's quite violent, actually.
Yeah.
He's hit stuff on the head before. What was it? I think it was in Dalek Invasion of Earth in the sewers. He hit something on the head quite hard with his stick.
Never carries weapons, Doctor.
Yeah, what's that, Doctor? But yeah, then the biggest cliffhanger ever. Steve and Vicky are back in the monastery, and they go to the sarcophagus, and it's a freaking TARDIS.
Yeah.
Freaking mind-blowing moment. At this point, you don't know that the monk is a Time Lord, or of the same, species as the Doctor. And I walk in, and it's the monk's got a TARDIS. And like that, I remember that was like, holy shit. That was crazy. It was pretty big moment, that would have been. Yeah. I wonder what that would have been like watching as a kid back then,
No idea.
That would have been crazy. I mean, yeah, okay, look, so it was 7.7 million for that one, and the next week it was 8.3. So it jumped up.
Oh my goodness, there's something else from like the Doctor.
Something must have been on that week, because it was 8.9, 8.8, 7.7, 8.3. So it must have just been happening on the 17th of July, 1965.
Well, sorry for the people who just missed that episode, just because
Just because of that cliffhanger, yeah. I mean, 7.7 million still saw it though, so
it's still significantly better than what it is now.
Yeah, which is pretty disappointing. But yeah, then checkmate, the final episode where kind of everything gets revealed on what he's planning to do. He thinks that Britain's history gets halted for a bit because savages take over, and then they find the nuclear weapons in the TARDIS, and then his journal.
Just looking through the monk's collection, the journal was quite a nice thing because you kind of see it all the same as Doctor's, and then you just kind of look to the left, and it's like suddenly this whole kind of
collection of just this and that, really.
Collection, and looking through the monk's journal, and you can see kind of one of the interesting things that they did is that they made it so that they show that history's already been changed, and that our history now has already been changed by the monk going back and doing stuff.
Yep, like the Leonardo da Vinci and Power of Flight.
Yeah.
Using time travel to collect a fortune at the bank, which I don't know why he needs that anyway. I mean,
Well, just money, Earth money.
Why would he?
And I was just kind of. It's a joke.
I guess. I guess. But yeah, the most interesting one is later on is using anti-gravity clamp or whatever just to make the Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Did he help make the Pandorica then?
Aww.
Because that's what it was.
Well, it's could be based on.
Could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
actually, I'd have to say the Monk's Planet in general is just kind of very different to the others.
Yeah,
before.
it's really nice.
He's thinking he's helping in some ways.
He's not necessarily a villain in his eyes.
Yeah.
He's doing good.
He's just doing it all the wrong ways.
Yeah. But I mean, he never actually hurts anyone. He helps heal that guy.
But they plan to kill the Vikings.
Okay, right. Yeah, never mind. I take that back. He means to help. Well, I mean, the Doctor's had to kill people in times of need, to do what he thinks is right. Maybe the Doctor's wrong. Maybe the Doctor's wrong.
Yeah, well, they bring up the moral thing in those episodes as well, but,
Well, banter.
Does it make the monk good in this one?
Well, that's true. Well, I mean, he's pretty evil working with the Daleks, which is so weird that he does return, just for a few episodes in the master plan.
Yeah. Well, I think they planned to bring it back for a more recurring thing, but I think Peter Butterworth died before he continued to.
When did he die? I'll have a look.
I don't think it was too long after Master Plan, to be honest.
Right, his last stuff was 1979, so that was a while on.
I guess so, yeah.
I guess they just didn't want him. Yeah, he was in loads of Carry On films.
Yeah, I know. that was what he was most known for in general. Alright, never mind.
So his first one was actually after Doctor Who. People think it's a common perception that he was chosen because of his Carry On, but actually he did Doctor Who first, which is pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a bit odd why they didn't bring him back then. I guess that by
different
the time
showrunners wanted to do different stuff. I guess.
showrunners, and by the time you get to the Patrick
But this was
Troughton
like the
era-
first like returning
Actually, it would be
Nemesis
really interesting
person.
to see him go up against Patrick Troughton. To be honest,
Definitely, more
They're
interesting.
both kind of silly. And
Exactly. So yeah, it would have been interesting.
Mm.
Maybe they look too similar though, that it would have been confusing. Because they do look quite the same. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the way that they stopped the monk.
Yeah, it's kind of it's different. Like the villains in general. Like so, the Vikings are kind of beaten up by the villagers, and the monk is Doctor kind of we don't really know what the Doctor's done. He just kind of ties something up and pulls out a circuit or something.
Yeah, he pulls out the
leaves him a
dimension
letter.
circuit,
Yeah.
and then so the inside of his TARDIS has to now fit in the size of what the thingamajig is. But I mean, that doesn't mean you can fit it back on again. It just means you'd have to like slide his hand in and just be very, very delicate.
But the Doctor has a circuit
Well, I mean, he could make one slowly.
using 1066 technology.
Well, you'd have to just make it slowly. You'd just have to make it slowly.
Well, that's presumably how he
Oh,
got
he
out.
got the nuclear gun, and he uses that stuff. There we go. That's.
Well, how would you really do a nuclear
He's
gun?
a Time Lord. It's all good. Or the Master came and helped him. Actually, how is it explained how he gets in the Master Plan?
Maybe.
It might be. I mean, thing is, I haven't listened to Master Plan because I'm hoping they animate it, so I don't really want to listen to it.
You notice how we don't really talk much about the Vikings? It's just because they don't really.
They're
play
kind
that
of
massive
they're
part of
not
it.
really that big a part. Oh, they're a big part of it. Yeah, but
They are, but they aren't. The kind of.
yeah, what it says on Wikipedia is the monk just tries to sabotage the Doctor's TARDIS because he stranded him. Doesn't say how he escaped.
Maybe that was not exposed in the episode itself, but.
Maybe it is in the line. If you know, comment below. There you go, that's a rhyme. If you know, comment below. But yeah, I mean, his like curses shot is great. But I don't know why he just didn't run after the Doctor and just try and take his TARDIS. I mean, he had the time.
Well, because it's all the way down to the beach.
Oh, survival. Oh, I can't be bothered to run though, because the beach distance. He should have tried at least.
Yeah. Maybe.
He should have seen the TARDIS disappear and be like, curses, Doctor, I'll have my revenge, or something.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
I have to say, one thing is that the episode, the way it ends, like, the monk being defeated like that is kind of cool, but, like, the episode is kind of...
It's very abrupt.
Yeah, so the Vikings are just sort of killed. I mean, it might have helped with the extra 40 seconds, because there is actually 40 seconds missing from that fight scene, where the Vikings are attacked, where there would have been probably... Well, they were going to be killed there, basically.
Yeah.
Which is taken out by, I think, the Australian censors, I believe.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And then destroyed at some point. But which might have helped that a little bit. But it still feels kind of abrupt, just because it all is just kind of thrown in at the end. Like, it just kind of ends, and the monk kind of is a bit nervous, heads back to his thing to try and get out, and,
It is very, very abrupt and very, very quick.
Mm.
But, I mean, apart from that, it's a pretty solid story,
Oh,
really.
definitely. I really enjoy it.
Steven and, Vicky are great. William Hartnell, brilliant. Yeah, it's just very, very enjoyable. Good one. Good one for the evening, on a cold winter's evening, you need a bit cheering up. Time Meddler's like a solid one. And we've got it signed by Maureen O'Brien and Peter Powers, which makes it now even a bit more special.
Well, that and the fact that, well, for me, Time Meddler was like one of my earliest episodes I got, because actually it was this one. It was kind of bit interesting because I just kind of got back from school one day. It was just lying on my on the table, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I bought that for you." I was like, "Oh." just
That's a good one.
spontaneously.
Yeah. Was it just random HMV or was it charity show?
No, it was new. When I
Oh,
got
full
it.
on brand new.
I think
Nice.
I think it was though on offer,
Oh,
but it was new. Yeah.
why would this one be on offer? It's excellent. Also, I quite like the DVD cover as well. It's very nice.
This was like way back in, what, 2009, 2008 maybe?
Ages ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got this one later on because I obviously already had the VHS of it, so I replaced the double big cassette ones because they took up the most room on my shelf, so I could get those ones down. Like the Key of Marinus was a double case one. War Games was 2 separate VHSs. Romans the Rescue was double VHS. So yeah, and they were very chunky and they took up like the space of like 6 DVDs. So, which is why I got rid of those ones first. I've kept the odd VHS. The Sharda special edition one I kept, which was a double one. But yeah, very solid story. So I guess we're on to the 3 good points.
Yeah. You start.
Oh, okay. Well, Peter Butterworth as the monk is a great new character. You know, really well acted, and it's a shame they didn't bring him back.
Yeah, people were
and he still hasn't been brought back. I mean, come on,
asking for his return to this day. So
it'd be a lot more interesting. He doesn't need to be the big finale villain. No. He just needs to be, even the first episode of a new season. You can have him in there. You don't need a 2-parter. You just need, maybe a 2-parter for his first story just to reintroduce him.
It'd be interesting to see what he did during the Time War, because, how does he fit into that?
Oh, I don't think he would have fought. He would have hidden.
Yeah, quite possibly. But it's like explaining that.
Or they might have used him tactically to send him back in time and slightly change stuff.
So, kind of what the Doctor was supposed to do in Genesis.
Yeah, but probably succeed because he doesn't have a conscience as much as the Doctor.
Or maybe he was helping the Daleks.
Oh, well, no, I don't think he'd do that. Because the thing is they'd kill him anyway.
Yeah,
the only reason he's in Master Plan is because he's trying to get revenge on the Doctor, not helping the Daleks. The sets are gorgeous. They're, bay. Like the monastery looks great. The village looks great. The rocks look great. I love rocks. Yeah. And I just say William Hartnell and then Peter Butterworth. They're kind of acting between each other. But I'd like to, give a side mention to Peter Pears as Stephen in this one. Is really solid.
Yes.
And good for kind of his first story. I mean, he's in one episode of The Chase, but he's a bit crazy in that one.
Yeah, it's a little weird, that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit kind of off the hook there, but he's a lot more controlled. But, it happens, and I just feel sorry for him, but a lot of his stories are missing. So, yeah. The music's pretty okay as well, actually, in this one.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's black and white music's alright. It's when it hits the colour, music sometimes.
I mean, it's not always so great. I mean, there's some exceptions, but it's not really memorable stuff like any of these. With a few exceptions here and there, but a lot of it's just kind of there, to say.
Yeah. Anyway, your 3 points.
Yep. I second Peter Butterworth. Yeah, he's just great as a monk. He really does own that role.
Nail it.
And all the times I hear him and William Hartnell on screen together, they just really bounce really well off each other, and just really enjoyable. I'd have to say the general script in general is just kind of quite high quality, mixing quite nicely in with the more serious and some more violent moments, with some really nicely placed and well fit in comedy with some good writing, especially the interactions between the characters. I did mention the Doctor and the monk, but also the trio of the Doctor and his companions actually do, in the opening scenes and later on, they do kind of very much bounce well off each other, and I think the script really helps in that in this instance, because that's not always the case in some episodes. I'd second the sets. The sets are very high quality for the time, especially.
Definitely in this story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're not quite as... Well, there's only a few locations on, say, The Chase, but, it does everything it needs to, and it feels convincingly like you're at the time period quite nicely, actually. for the budget they had, it's really impressive what they came up with here. Like, I know there's a stereotype of like all the sets being made out of cardboard and feeling really cheap, but you look at this and it's like, I don't get where that comes from.
Yeah, I think that's just people who like to bash it. Oh, people watch Doctor Who for the wobbly sets, which is utter BS. People watched it because it's a good show.
Moment,
yeah, there's the occasional, but that's not the reason why you watch it.
Exactly.
You watch it because it's a good show.
Yeah.
But people just used it as an excuse that they didn't look as nerdy,
cheap.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, 3 bad points. 1, the Vikings are just a bit naff, really. They're kind of pointless in the story. You kind of could have that. There's a lot of padding, number 2, for sure. And number 3 is it's just kind of a bit too much cat and mouse. But, it's okay because this is a great cliffhanger. Cliffhanger of the week is definitely episode 3, though, with the TARDIS reveal. That's a great one. That was crazy.
Alright, my three bad is I mentioned this briefly earlier, but the scenes some scenes go on for really overstay their welcome. Like, it's not. I say generally the pacing's well good, and most scenes have something to add. There isn't, there's a bit of padding because they're seeing how slow it goes, but it's not, too much, I'd say. But it seems to do go on for very long at points, especially in the first few episodes, it does go on for a little bit. I would say, I'd say the Vikings as well. They're just kind of not, you don't really add too much to the thing, and just kind of, they're kind of a bit, they're very silly, they're kind of a bit, they just kind of wander around, get attacked a few times, and then they die, basically. So they don't really add all that much to the plot, really.
No.
I know there was a kind of initial, kind of scouting thing, but it's like... And other than that, there's...
The padding?
I think the kind of abrupt ending.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit too... everything just kind of concludes itself a bit quick, and it's doesn't feel like it's really ended. It's a bit of an issue. Yeah, it's not...
But yeah, nerdy. So, the working title for this one was The Monk. Yeah, there was some others as well, I think. The Time Traveller, I think, was another one. And the first episode's working title was The Paradox.
No, the other one was The Meddling Monk. The other one.
Oh yeah, Meddling Monk was the other.
Though the Time Traveller actually does not appear on any of the BBC paperwork from the time, so we don't know if
we don't know for sure, yeah.
That one's legit.
As mentioned earlier, Maureen O'Brien got the acronym wrong for TARDIS, but then it's actually continued for history, so now it's kind of become canon.
Yeah. There is a... Okay, it's not 40, it's 12-second footage of the Vikings being stabbed to death when in the end part.
Yeah.
There's no copy of it known to exist. The only way which it kind of exists is there's audio recordings of it still existing. So in the DVD release, there's a
we just can't see it.
They kind of put a version of it where they just kind of had the script on the screen and basically the rest of the audio of them, which is just a load of
Thank you for that. The print of episode The Meddling Monk is held in a film and TV library. Incomplete prints of all episodes were found in Nigeria in 1985. Complete prints of The Watcher and A Battle of Wits were returned to the archive in 1992. During episode 2, William Hartnell was on holiday, so all stuff with him in was pre-recorded.
Peter Purves is credited as Stephen Taylor in The Watcher, but is then credited as Stephen in the Checkmate, which is kind of odd. They just kind of decided not to use his full name.
During production of his story, new producer John Wiles began taking over production duties. William Hartnell, displeased at the number of changes the production underwent, play acted, throwing a temper tantrum during the rehearsal of this story. No next episode was actually at the end of the very last episode, which it was at the Reign of Terror. They actually had the next time, Planet of the Giants. But this one just had the 3 actors with a space backdrop, which is a bit weird, that. But it's nice, but it's just a bit random.
Some version of the story that was distributed in the 80s cut the scene in The Watcher where the Doctor and Vicky discovered Stephen hiding in the TARDIS.
Which makes sense, because it is really confusing, if you haven't seen The Chase.
Yeah, well, it's kind of confusing with Stephen just being there without that scene, though, anyway.
Well, no, you just go, oh, he's the companion for this one.
They kind of talk about him as if he's kind of new.
I guess.
That'd be pretty confusing.
So, usual continuity, the Doctor doesn't like to be called Doc, which they have a few good gags, actually, with that.
Yeah.
The monk returns in the Daleks' master plan for, I think, 2 episodes, is it? Or 1? I don't know. But he returned for a very short moment.
The story was chosen by the fans to represent the William Hartnell era when they brought to be broadcast for the Doctor Who 40th anniversary kind of thing. Also, the footage of the Viking ship was taken from a BBC newsreel about Vikings' recreation of South Coast of England.
Yeah, that's cool.
In the remastered DVD version, this footage is restored from the original version of the thing used on Newsnight. And a complete item appears on the DVD extras with the full Viking scene. So yeah, I was wondering because it seemed it kind of seems a bit high budget to be outright having a Viking ship in Doctor Who. No, that makes sense.
That's kind of all the kind of major interesting ones, I'd say. Yeah.
Hang on.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, conclusion. Should I go first, or?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The Time Meddler, absolute classic of a classic era. It had a lot riding on it as well. Having just a long-term companion, Xena and Barbara, leaving the week prior, a lot of fans would still be sad about that happening. And they needed time to mellow at the beginning of the next episode, which kind of worked. But then they kind of get going with Stephen, it just doesn't stop really. Kind of the story gets going, and there's only one mention of Barbara later on when the Doctor's working out about history, and it's like, oh, if only Barbara were here. The setting, the characters are just wonderful. The monk is such a memorable character, though he only appears twice, with only this story of the 2 really in existence. I mean, I think one of the episodes on Lost in Time has him in it.
Yes.
Which is quite lucky, really. But so Peter Butterworth is brilliant and pulls the most incredible faces, and with him next to William Hartnell, it just can't really get any better. Stephen is a great add to the team, and Vicky is enjoyable to watch as well, though doesn't really contribute much in this story. She's more just kind of there for the dialogue. The monk's plan is refreshing, and him turning out to be a Time Lord is such a mind-blowing moment. Is just incredible. It's such a great story and worth a watch by any fan. I think I've watched it too many times now, though. I think I need to have a little break before I watch it again.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah, it's not you, Time Meddler, it's me. I see too much of you. I need some space. Anyway, I give Time Meddler a solid 9 out of 10. It's funny, has stakes, and great acting, but some slightly slower scenes, which are a tiny bit samey at some points. Just stop it being that perfect 10. But it's a very high 9. You know, if I was giving it points, it'd probably be 9.4 or something. You know, it's still a very solid story, but I can't say it's as perfect as it could be.
No.
But yeah, 9 out of 10.
Alright. This story is great. It just is. Its dialogue is great. The sets are great. You know, the characters, I genuinely enjoy a lot of them. And the monk is excellent. Peter Butterworth kind of very much owns that. It's wonderful in a lot of ways. The pacing generally feels quite nice, and my issues would be the scenes do go on a bit. A lot of the scenes do kind of drag, and at points I kind of found myself kind of a little bit distracted at points, and the climax does feel a little bit weak, but there are some really good cliffhangers in there to kind of counterbalance that. So, I really love this story. It does have a special place in my heart, being one of the earliest stories I ever got in general. So, my ultimate score for this would be an 8 out of 10. Like, it's really, really solid. A few issues with it here and there, but, I do really hold a special place for this story in my heart.
Nostalgia, it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite from when I was younger.
Yes.
I watched this when I was about, I think, first watched it when I was about 13 or something, so... 13, 14, maybe. No, I was definitely 13 or younger. But no.
You always have a special place in your heart for like some of the stories.
All the black and white ones just have somewhere. I think there's just something a bit more special about the black and white to me. I think it's just. Yeah. There's some colour ones, but I just remember watching the black and white way more vividly in my mind. I got the Beginnings box set was the first classic Doctor Who DVDs I got, and I remember watching that, and it was crazy.
I was generally pretty lucky for my earliest stories, because I was bought I bought with my own money a VHS copy of Tomb of the Cybermen, and then I got it on DVD when we chucked away all our VHSs. And then I got this was somewhere along the line, and Genesis of the Daleks was the other one I remember very vividly. I was very lucky to get some of those stories as my first few watches for a classic era.
I remember I got that one on my birthday when I turned 15, I think.
Also, the Three Doctors I got very early on as well.
Oh, so I got that quite late on. I remember the first box that I got was Revisitations 3. Well, not out of the 3 Revisitations. The first one I got was number 3 because it had 3 Doctors, Tomb of Cybermen, and Robots of Death. That is a whopper of a revisitation.
I decided not to get that one because I had 2 of those stories at the time, because I had the original versions of 2 Man and the 3 Doctors at the time.
You got it now, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I have that one now, because I decided...
You've got number 2 and 3, and you know...
I got all of them.
Oh, you got number 1 as well?
I got all of them, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go, that's what we thought of the Time Meddler. So tell us what you thought below of the Time Meddler, and we hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next week for another podcast review.
Unless something really bad happens.
Unless someone goes back in the past and meddles with our podcast, and then we just stop existing.
Oh no, I'm female!
That is a big change. He literally changed chromosomes. He changed a Y into an X, and...
Oh my goodness!
I'm trying to think of a female name beginning with C. Clarence!
I'm Conretta!
Conretta! That is a new name. You better call if you ever have a daughter, you've got to call her Conretta now. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye!
Farewell!